Well, 26-22, Arizona State stuns Texas Tech in Tempe. And to be quite honest, I mean, Arizona State was the better team today. I don't like to say that, but it's the truth. I feel like they were out schemed, particularly in the first half, out physicaled, particularly Tech offense compared to Arizona State's defense. And that's something we've seen more from the receivers than the entire offense. But I thought Arizona State did a really good job of bottling up the run at first, obviously the pass as well. But man, what a rough game, especially to come back and take the lead. Tech showed a lot of heart. It looked like they were going to pull out the victory. All they needed was one more stop from their vaunted defense, and they just weren't able to do it. They weren't able to get it done. And you got to tip the cap to Arizona State. I said that in the post-game wrap. I'm going to say it anywhere. I feel like it was a total team loss. I feel like they were out schemed. I feel like they were outplayed, out physicaled. And eventually when it came down to Arizona State had to go, 75 yards, and Tech's defense had a lead. All they needed was a stop. They even got a 4th and 2, and Jordan Tyson got that big pass play from Sam Levitt. And you got to give Arizona State credit both in the beginning and towards the end. There were a lot of mistakes, a lot of missed opportunities. There always are, when you lose a game like this. But for example, there were several passes that were right in Tech defenders' hands that they weren't able to come up with. J-Rob punched out at least forced 2 fumbles. The team, I think, forced 3 at least, and they weren't able to get on any of them. And, that's not a good recipe for victory. They abandoned the run in terms of with Cam Dickey and Jacoby Williams. I think only 12 carries between the two of them. I think Cam Dickey averaged 4 yards per carry. Jacoby, he's limited because he's been injured, but, he only had 3 carries. I think that was a huge mistake. I think that was, you have your redshirt freshman quarterback making his first regular season start. I know he started the bowl game against Arkansas, but, on the road, true road game, and you abandon the run, which has been so successful for you this season. I don't understand why that happened. I really don't. I think that was a huge mistake. I think that's a big reason why Tech lost, and I think they're going to regret that. I've had some fans, mention that McGuire should have tried that 54-yard field goal. I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem. He took the blame for that 4th and 6 where they ran to the short side. They were right there at the boundary. They had no room. They were in that audible, that speed option on 4th and 6 that was doomed from design, basically. I think that was costly. There was just a lot of mistakes, but you got to give Arizona State credit. That's what I said in the post-game wrap. I still feel that way. So, I hope y'all have some comments or questions for me. We can go over the stats, but they're ugly. Ultimately, that's what I feel like what happened with the game. What does that mean for the season? We'll see. I don't know if anybody's going to go undefeated in the Big 12 this year. Obviously, BYU has the only opportunity. I haven't seen what's going on in the game against Utah right now, but they're a good team. So we're starting to get some comments in. Joshua Tucker said Tech's defense looked top 50. Well, look, Tech's defense kept, the Red Raiders in the game for most of the game. But to your point, I mean, a really dominant defense makes that stop, that 4th and 2 stop on that game-winning drive, or comes up with a turnover or something, and they just didn't. So it's, it's hard. I'm not going to say top 50. I still think it's a top 15, top 10 defense, but there were situations where they didn't play like that today. And again, there were some incredible bounces. There were even some bobble passes, tip passes. They always seem to go to Arizona State. I'm not making excuses because there's something to be said for Arizona State being faster to the ball, whether it be a fumble or a tip pass or whatever. But that was kind of weird to me. Tech made plenty of mistakes to lose on its own, though, that's for sure. Michael Lowry said, offensive game plan, the fourth down play call, the roughing the passer. Yeah, that was a rough one with David Bailey. I mean, he's made so many plays for you. He's a great player, but that was clearly a roughing the passer, and that was tough. He said the defense got gassed because the offense kept punting. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely true. But they still had an opportunity to make one stop. So to me, this was a total team loss. This is on the staff. This is on the offense, clearly. This is on the defense. There's going to be a lot of soul searching, I think, this week, and there should be. I mean, that's one thing about adversity. And McGuire said in his post-game presser that, you'd like to learn from adversity after a close win rather than a loss. But hopefully this lesson won't be too costly for the Red Raiders. Joshua Tucker said the offense looked like crap. Yeah, it did look like crap for most of the game. 270-something total yards. You managed to somehow phase out Cam Dickey and Jacoby Williams, not give them enough touches. The receivers struggled to get open. They weren't very physical after the catch. I thought Coy had some nice catches, but nothing major. And Will Hammond made some really bad decisions and was inaccurate. I will say there's something to be said for them scoring those quick 14 points in the final 2 minutes, but just wasn't good enough. It's not going to be good enough for them to win the Big 12 or even get to the Big 12. Certainly not going to be good enough in the playoffs if they're able to get there. Michael Lowry said BYU is up 7-10 at halftime. Okay. Well, that's something to watch there in that second half. Joshua Tucker said, why are Tech playing zone on 3rd and 4 on Tyson? Yeah, there are definitely some head-scratching scheme calls. I don't know if that was a McGuire, don't give up a touchdown, back, or if that was Shield Wood's call, or if that was something on the field that the players, I don't know yet. I'm not in Tempe. I wasn't at the post-game presser. It's definitely going to be some questions on Monday that I'm going to ask the coaches, but, that's a good question. Michael Lowry says, if Tuesday's healthy, they win out this year, experience in the vertical passing game. Well, first off, that's a big if. And I'm a huge Baron Morton fan. Make no mistake. But the truth is he gets hurt almost every game. I don't want to make this about just the fact that Barron didn't play because Arizona State earned that victory today. James Campbell said he attended the game in Tempe. Tech was just flat today. No separation of the receivers. I feel like this has been a problem. It has been a problem. That's something I mentioned leading up to the game. I think that's an excellent point, James Campbell. The receivers haven't been great. They haven't lived up to their billing. They haven't. Especially after non-conference, which can we really count non-conference considering the competition? They look very tentative. They looked very tentative today. I thought Kansas roughed them up. I thought Houston roughed them up a little bit. I thought they played pretty good against Utah. But other than that, the receivers haven't been as good as they're billing. And, we know that Cam Douglas, Coy Aiken can do it. We've seen them do it. We saw them do it last year. And Reggie Virgil's a good player. So I don't know what's going on with the receivers. It's weird. But they haven't been great 3 out of the last 4 weeks at least. KCM says that was a team who looked entirely complacent with their success. Offense was atrocious. I mean, I think that's fair. I think that's a fair comment. Complacency does set in. Maybe they did start, believing the hype and all that, but they sure are humbled now, and they're going to hear it this week. It goes back to the fat little girlfriends thing. Maybe that's, Mike Leach had a lot of wisdom in a very weird manner of communicating it. Texas Tech fans know exactly what I'm talking about in his own unique way. And Fat Little Girlfriends was definitely going off in my head as I was watching the game play out today. Joshua Tucker says, why not give Micah a shot? Well, he didn't look good on that kick return. I know it's a completely different thing. My answer would be the other receivers must be out playing him in practice, but maybe he's a game day player. I don't know, but the receivers just haven't looked that great. And I think without Terrence Carter, and even when he's been in, he's got that bum wheel. All of a sudden the receiving core is kind of iffy. It's not as dominant. And Jacoby Williams, they're not using him split out at all either. Perhaps because he's, got the foot problems as well, but they got to figure something out because it's not working. Let's see. Other comments are rolling in now. Let's see. Shot or stone? I don't know what that. I'm sorry, I don't know what that is. He said, let's see. Michael Lowry says it's easy as a defensive game plan to scheme up against Hammond. Tech and Mac walked into this game thinking Dickey just ran all over Kansas. We'll do that just again with Dickey and Hammond. Well, why not give Cam Dickey the ball? He averaged 4.5 yards per carry. That's still pretty good. I know he got bottled up some early, but he was pushing the pile forward. He had 9 carries today. Between him and Jacoby, they had 12. I don't care what explanation. And I'm going to ask, both McGuire. And he was asked about it some, and he had a response, but I didn't like the response. And everybody who knows me knows I'm a huge McGuire fan, all that stuff, in terms of I think he's the right coach at the right time for Texas Tech. But I'm never going to understand why they didn't give those two guys the ball more, especially with the redshirt freshman making his first true road start, his first regular season start. Against the defending Big 12 champ, like why not help him out? I don't understand that. That one's hard to understand. Just very hard to understand. If you can't tell, I'm pretty upset about it. I don't get it. I was told they were going to be balanced. They would run the ball. That's not what we saw today. We saw an offensive team that panicked, tried to throw the ball over the field despite the inexperience of their talented young quarterback. And I mean, it cost them, flat out. Relic says the offensive play calling was so terrible. I mean, I'm not going to argue with that. I'm not going to argue with that at all. He says, and the receivers don't get open. It's always a struggle to get open. Yeah, it does. I mean, not this overall, this century for Texas Tech, but it does seem this year, which I think is what you're talking about, it has been tough for the receivers to get open, especially really since that Houston game. It's like, they're not really getting separation, even against, one-on-one man coverage. So that has my attention for sure. I was saying that coming into this game when they were 6-0 and hadn't trailed. And by the way, I was called out by some people, which is fine. I'm eating crow I predicted Tech to win 38-13. But we, as a whole football program, team, all that, whether, like me who covers it or fans or clearly the Tech team, I do think there's something to the complacency, the overconfidence, because I got called out for suggesting that Tech might trail in this game. Well, they trailed almost the entire game. I don't think that was unreasonable. Clearly, I didn't have the game right because I was off by, 4 or 5 touchdowns. So I'm eating my crow this week, but there's a lot of that going around. Let's say that surrounding the Texas Tech football program. Kim Coulter says nothing but respect to Arizona State. Yeah, just like I said in the post-game wrap video, I mean, there's a lot of blame to go around for Tech, but you have to respect what Arizona State did today. They were physical. They had a great game plan. They were aggressive. And when they faced their own adversity, when Tech blitzed them with those 2 touchdowns in 2 minutes, they had a 2-minute drive. They go 75 yards. They need a field goal to tie or a touchdown, and they punched it in. They got a touchdown. It wasn't fluky. They just did what they needed to do to get the job done. So, I mean, we have to acknowledge that. Jeffrey said, what's up with the secondary? Well, for one, okay, Pollock had that pass interference. He was covering a really good player, and for the most part, he held up. But he did struggle on that final drive, which, that counts, obviously. Brendan Jordan was a liability, and Arizona State wisely attacked that twice in the first half. As McGuire said in the post game, they made some adjustments. I think that affected some other areas of the game because they had to help him out. But clearly, Brendan Jordan is somebody who's going to, be singled out by opposing teams, and so they're going to have to figure some things out in terms of helping him, because him just going one-on-one with these Big 12 receivers, as much as I like Brendan Jordan for his physicality and run support and stuff like that, I mean, there are other components to playing safety, i.e. coverage, deep coverage, and he was a liability today for sure. KCM says, secondary has been covered up by the D-line all year. It's a problem. I mean, is the whole secondary a problem? I'm not ready to say that. Like, I'm more concerned overall about the receivers not getting separation and playing. I mean, Soft, to throw that out there to call dude soft is like, you better be sure. But complacent, for sure. Brendan Jordan is a liability in coverage. Cole Wisniewski needs to catch the ball when it's right in his hands. That's at least a couple times this year. It's a dude who had 8 interceptions a couple of years ago. So clearly he's capable of catching the ball, though we haven't seen it in a game this year. Otherwise, Cole's played really well, made some good plays today. I think the corners overall have played way better than what we're used to at Texas Tech, and certainly better than last year. But, a couple of breakdowns against Kansas, and then today, I mean, it's hard to defend really a whole lot about Tech other than that they did fight back. They did take a lead. But, man, the defense not being able to seal the deal was very disappointing. And obviously the secondary was a huge part of that. Michael Lowry says, end of the day, yesterday was frustrating, but you started Hammond and Tempe against Levitt, Tyson, Dillingham playing for their season, and you only lost by 4. Keep 2 upright and beat BYU. Well, that would be nice if you can keep Baron Morton healthy, but you haven't been able to do that almost all year. I mean, even against Arkansas Pine Bluff, he got hurt. So, bottom line is Will's going to have to grow up in a hurry, even if Barron comes back, because he's been injured so many times. But I do want to say this is still a very good team. It's tough to go undefeated, even if you're a great team. They still almost pulled out a victory despite Arizona State, clearly outplaying them for most of the game. And, we'll see how they respond. They have Oklahoma State next week. They got some tough games, Kansas State, BYU coming up. It's still out in front for them, I believe. But they definitely made it a lot more difficult with this loss today. Kim Coulter says he lives in Phoenix and put 2 boys through Arizona State. Y'all can't even imagine the shit I'm going to get the rest of the year in my house and at my club. He says he wears Tech gear proudly everywhere. It's going to suck. Well, you should still do it. In my opinion, it's your life. But I think, in my opinion, you stay loyal to your team, all that, let's see how the season plays out. If Arizona State got beat by Tech, not a very good Tech team overall last year, especially on defense, and still went on to win the Big 12 championship and go to the college football playoff where they made a good showing, of course, taking UT to overtime. If Tech wins the Big 12, goes to the playoffs, then you know what? You could just wave out and be like, what bowl game did y'all go to? That kind of thing. So I would be patient. I would stay loyal. That would be my advice. Not that you asked for it, but yeah, I do feel your pain, man. Of course, I've been there. I mean, I'm eating a lot of crow today. I picked Tech to win by 25. Clearly, I was very wrong. Tommy Gray said, hopefully that was a wake-up call. Yeah, if it's not, then what is it going to take for sure? Michael Lowry said Chapman Lewis can help out with the Jordan coverage problem. He says, love him some Chap. Yeah, I like Chapman Lewis a lot. He did come back to practice this last week, but he's to expect him to be ready to play Power 4 football really anytime soon. It's going to be at least weeks, but maybe towards the end of the year he could really help out in that position. Jeff Reese says, does Tech have to win out now to make the Big 12 championship? More than likely, but I can't say that because there's still, this week and then almost a whole half of a season remaining. And I don't know the tiebreakers right now. I will once we get closer and all that, but I'm sure I've read it and forgot it, to be honest. There's so many rule changes over the last couple of years, somebody could look it up or whatever, but realistically, I think Tech probably does have to win out. And you could see a way towards doing that. It's hard to see in the moment this week, but you have to remember college football is a week-to-week proposition. Last week, yeah, Levitt was out, and that's a big deal, but they got just boat raced by Utah in the trenches. And look, that same team came and just roughed up Texas Tech and upset the Red Raiders. So it really is a week-to-week proposition. Tech's a good team. They still have good coaches, all those things. Let's see how it plays out. Beat Oklahoma State, and then I believe it's Kansas State there. That's the next really big test. I'm not trying to overlook Oklahoma State or anything like that, but I mean, that program's in shambles. If you don't beat Oklahoma State at home next week, then what are we even talking about, right? Let's see. Kim Coulter says, it's all good. I'm a Red Raider for life. Respect. Michael Lowry says, Barron got a ticky-tack knee shot against Pine Bluff and re-aggravated against Kansas. I mean, those are true stories that I think we all know. He said he knows he's always banged up, but is a gamer. Only QB to start 12 games in the season since Chaminade. I'm a huge Barron Morton fan, and I have a lot of respect for him, and I do think he's tough. But I can also say the bottom line is, I mean, you're kind of throwing out like excuses or like this is what this happened. Bottom line is he's missed a lot of time this year. Period. Doesn't mean he's not a tough guy or whatever. But so you can't count. My point is, if you're a coach, if you're Joey McGuire or Mac Lefwitz, you can't count on Barron to last throughout games. You just can't because of what we've seen. Not because he's not tough or anything like that. It's just because that's a fact. So Will's got to grow up in a hurry, and hopefully, but yes, Barron stays healthy because I think that's the best way. Obviously, that Texas Tech's going to make it to Jerry World in that Big 12 championship. Ryan Scott said repercussions of the picked up flag on this on the offense lineup offsides, one of the worst calls I've seen. Yeah, I don't understand why they picked it up. Why? Anyone ever explain that? Even I forgot the dude's name, but the ref on call or whatever on the TV broadcast was like, that clearly should have been called. I don't think people always want to look for conspiracies. I think it was just a terrible call, and it really cost Tech, but I don't think that's the reason why Tech lost. But it's unfortunate that the Big 12 refs are as terrible as they are, to be honest. Sigma 3000 says, we played like crap, and Arizona State 100% played better and deserved a win. But I keep seeing people acting like playing without Morton had no impact at all. That's such a low football IQ thing to say. No, look, you're doing like black and white. Like it's either this or that. I'm saying, did it have an impact on the game? Of course it had an impact on the game. But I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, Tech lost because Barron didn't play. I feel like that's disingenuous. Tech had opportunities to win. Arizona State was the more physical team. I thought they out-schemed Texas Tech, especially in the first half, and I think they deserved a win. And Barron and Will Hammond wasn't on the field on that final drive. And look, I know the defense was tired out, but y'all keep wanting to make excuses. I'm not an excuse guy. Tech had an opportunity at a 4th and 2 to get off the field. They didn't do it. So I believe in my heart that you have to give credit to the other team who also, has scholarship players and good coaches and, oh, by the way, are still the reigning Big 12 champs. Both things can be true at the same time. I don't think they're mutually exclusive things. But maybe you just have a great football IQ than everybody else. Jeff Reese says, what's the take on the roughing the passer? Yeah, that was roughing the passer. You can't drive someone in the ground. They took 2 or 3 steps before he drove him in the ground. It's unfortunate. David Bailey is a stud. He's made so many great plays for you. But that was a mistake. He's human. Turns out he's human. Kim Coulter says, thank you for doing these live post-game shows. They're kind of therapeutic. Well, good. I'm glad. I wasn't looking forward to it. But I do appreciate y'all being here, and I don't know if it's therapeutic for me, but a lot of y'all bring up good comments. Not everybody, but a lot of y'all bring up really good comments and good points that really make me think, and I really appreciate y'all too. Ryan Scott said, also the lug ball bounce factor was crazy. Now that's something like how many fumbles didn't go Tech's way, and some of that you got to give Arizona State, credit for hustling, like the offensive lineman hustling down the field and jump on the ball. But how many balls were batted in the air? And they just always seem to go to Arizona State. At least 3 fumbles that Tech could have got on. At least, and there was a couple of interception opportunities that were like Brandon Jordan had one hit him right in the face. He was, focusing on the receiver and making a, quick tackle and all that. But it was right there. Cole Wisniewski had an interception. It was basically like a punt right in his hands. He's dropped at least a couple, which is kind of hard to understand because I think he led. He was among the leaders in the country in FCS, at least, with 8 interceptions a couple of years ago. But that cost 3 points, so that was tough. There was a lot of opportunities and some weird luck, I feel like, as well, that didn't go Tech's way, but that's part of the game as well. Let's see. Sigma 3000 said, I don't think you're saying Morton absence had no impact, but people in the comments are saying that Morton 100% would not admit. Well, that's ridiculous. if that's what you're saying, then I humbly apologize to you. Because, of course, it made a difference. I mean, you're talking about a dude who's played in, at least like 20 games, Big 12 games, started in one big games on the road, as opposed to a dude making his first start in the Big 12. I know he started the bowl game, but that's a whole different thing. Neutral site, yada, yada. This was a hostile crowd against a very good coaching staff, in my opinion. Yes, I 100% agree with you. Then I apologize. I thought because I've said a couple of times I don't want to make an excuse just because Barron didn't play, because I really do feel like Arizona State all around from the coaching staff, mostly their defense against Tech's offense, but even their offense. I mean, Sam Leavitt was dealing today. He was one of the best players on the field. You have to, and Jordan Tyson was uncoverable on that final drive, even despite only having one good hammy. So I just really believe in giving the other team credit when they deserve it. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way, but today I really believe Arizona State was the better team in most of the phases of the game. But yeah, Barron would have made a huge difference. Even just moving the ball some, even if they didn't score on some of those drives, so that Tech's defense didn't get so worn down. I mean, so many things. So people saying that didn't make a difference, I agree with you, man. Relix says, I think Tech changed the offense scheme so much for Will. It's not the same as the normal scheme. Should have just run the ball, not QB run, just run, and agree the ball didn't bounce our way at all. Yeah, I do think they were fell in love with the idea of Will as a runner. They put too much on him. Sometimes just line up and run your offense. I even liked what I heard before the Kansas game that McGuire said he was cut down some of the motion when they just wanted to line up and overpower folks. And look, Arizona State is a lot better defense overall and program. And I have so much more respect for Dillingham clearly than Lance Leipold at this point. I'm never going to understand. My biggest problem, I think, with the whole game is not giving Cam Dickey and Jacoby Williams. Now, Jacoby's too banged up. I kind of get it, but 2 or 3 more touches here, like as a runner, or even line him up as a receiver, because you still had him returning kicks. He still ran some. So that was never going to make sense. And why you didn't give Cam Dickey the ball more, I'm going to ask him about it Monday, because I don't get it. I don't understand. And they're going to say this or that or whatever, but he averaged 4.5 yards per carry. I'll take that all the time, especially in a smash mouth physical game like we had today, or they had today. And with I keep going back to this, but a guy making his first start, but I'm very disappointed in that. Michael Lowry said, yeah, QB power. I don't get Tech's obsession with that. Well, what they're going to say is it gives you an extra hat, an extra blocker. But yeah, it works some. I like Will more as a scrambler. He's still good as a runner here and there, but Arizona State clearly had that schemed up. They clearly were ready for it. They clearly knew, since it reported everywhere last night that Barron wasn't going to play and it was going to be Will, they had at least a day, and I'm sure they, as a contingency, were getting ready for it anyways throughout the week. So, I wish he was more of a scrambler and not a design run player, and let Cam Dickey do what Cam Dickey does, and Jacoby, hopefully, if he's healthy enough. Relic says, put the ball in playmakers' hands, which we didn't do. Yeah, and they've done such a good job. I've been very impressed with Mac Leftwich doing that up till today. I mean, and it cost them. Just simply it cost them. And Terrence Carter being out hurt, all that. Arizona State had injuries too and all that. I don't want to make it sound like coming off on excuses, but these are my truths from what I saw in the game. And there's a lot of adversity. I am very proud. I think it's a good sign that they came back and took that lead. It's just, obviously disappointing with the end result. So, well, we went 30 minutes, as Kim Coulter said. Man, I hope this was therapeutic for y'all. It's been therapeutic for me a little bit, and y'all have given me some really good things to consider. I really appreciate that. And once again, Sigma 3000, I apologize. For kind of calling you out. I was just like, come on now, these two things aren't mutually exclusive. Barron Moore not playing was huge. But I don't think that's ultimately the main reason why Tech lost. They got outplayed, and you got to tip the cap to Arizona State. Yeah, wait, one more thing. Oh, everybody said thank you. I appreciate y'all, man, so much. Love y'all, appreciate y'all. And look, one loss, hopefully won't define Tech on the season. We'll be back. We'll have all the preview stuff. Tech hopefully will get right against Oklahoma State, and then have some big games coming up with a lot on those games. But James Campbell brought up a good point. Why didn't you run the damn ball? He says, well, he's going to hear from his wife tonight. And I tell you what, Mrs. McGuire will be right too. They should have ran the ball more. Really appreciate y'all. Thank y'all. We'll have more. Check out Jaeger Shots. If you're from inside the Red Raiders, of course, probably already seen them, but it's a free story. I have the post-game wrap as well on here. Life will go on. We'll be all right. All right. Thank y'all.